this is so important to us, and you get to hear some amazing stories today. But I think why we wanted to do this, because we know that nationally this conversation has been going on for a while now, and it was only appropriate that our city got a chance to weigh in on this conversation. I believe when we see it on media, we tend to think that this is just a national problem, and we don't get to see it as a local problem as well. So today we're going to have some individuals who are bold and courageous enough to be able to share some of their stories with you, so that our residents and our community members would know that we also have to weigh in on this conversation and make sure that we tell Congress to pass a DREAM Act that's clean and creates a pathway to citizenship. So first, we're going to welcome Robert Whitehill.
Boy, this is awesome. Good morning. My job is not to be particularly emotional. I'm an immigration lawyer. I'm going to try to give a brief history and an update on DACA. So in 2005, this discussion started with several laws being introduced to address childhood arrivals to the United States. Undocumented immigrants who were growing up, going to school, and making their lives in this country. Senators Ted Kennedy and John McCain introduced a comprehensive immigration reform bill that would have provided a path to citizenship for this population. When that bill failed, Senator Durbin sponsored the DREAM Act to provide relief and a normal life for these dreamers, and that failed. Then, on a beautiful summer's day in 2012, President Obama announced, this morning, Secretary Napolitano announced my actions that my administration will take to mend our country's immigration policies and make it more fair, more efficient, and more just, specifically to certain young people, sometimes called dreamers. These are young people who study in our schools, they play in our neighborhoods, they're friends with our kids, they pledge allegiance to our flags. They are Americans in their heart, in their minds, in every way but one, on paper. The president went on to say, now let's be clear, this is not amnesty, this is not immunity, this is not a path to citizenship, it's not a permanent fix, this is a temporary stopgap measure that lets us focus our resources wisely while giving a degree of relief and hope to talented, driven, and patriotic young people, one of whom you're going to hear this morning. On the same day, the Department of Homeland Security, Secretary Napolitano, issued an order exercising prosecutorial discretion. And that is, as a general matter, Secretary Napolitano writes, these individuals lack the intent to violate the law, and our ongoing review of pending removal cases is already offering administrative closure to many of them. However, additional measures are necessary to ensure that our enforcement resources are not expended on these low priority cases. And so, with that, in 2012, DACA became a reality. In order to qualify as a dreamer, an individual needed to pay a filing fee, provide proof of being under 16 when entering the United States, and under 31 years of age as of June 15, 2012. Needed to provide other proof, including educational background, graduation from high school or GED, or military discharge. So when an individual was granted DACA relief, that person was granted prosecutorial discretion, which meant that they were protected from removal for 2 years and granted employment authorization for the same period. They're also granted a travel document. It reflects an enforcement priority. It is prosecutorial discretion of deferred action, but USCIS could withdraw that at any time. time marched forward, and on September 4th, as of September 4th, 2017, there were 689,800 active DACA recipients. The next day, Secretary Jeff Sessions announced that DACA would be rescinded. He said that the program was illegal, a threat, and with a threat to litigation, the Attorney General's office decided it would not defend the challenge and would revoke DACA, rescind it within 6 months by March 5th, 2018. The next day, 2 lawsuits were filed challenging the Attorney General's action. Regions of the University of Florida versus University of California versus DHS, and New York versus Trump. The first case, the California case, in January, and the New York case in February the 13th, issued preliminary injunctions against the rescission and demanded that Department of Homeland Security reopen DACA, which they have done reluctantly. As a result, in response, the Department of Homeland Security sought an immediate and unusual appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. And that U.S. Supreme Court request is that the procedure going from district court to circuit court to Supreme Court be circumvented, and that the U.S. Supreme Court takes certiorari, which they have yet to do. The reason why the courts found that they issued the injunction was basically because a challenge based upon the Administrative Procedures Act that what was being done by this administration was arbitrary and capricious, and the nature of the rescission had racist overtones, with about 80% of the DACA recipients coming from Mexico. So at this point, the Supreme Court has yet to act. Department of Homeland Security has reopened DACA, not new cases, not travel documents, and there are limitations on it, but it is currently open. And meanwhile, DACA recipients face an uncertain future. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name is Fan Ding. I'm a DACA recipient. So at the age of 2, I was diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder. And the doctors told my parents that I couldn't make it to adulthood. And at the age of 12, I had a bone infection due to the disease. And through God's will and some miracle, I got a B2 visitor visa to come to Pittsburgh, UPMC, to seek treatment, because there has been a new development in treatment for this disease. So my dad took me here. We did not have any relatives. We did not speak English. And so I was admitted to the Children's Hospital, the old one in Oakland. And I had 3 surgeries on my leg, and they were able to save it. And I started treatment on the enzyme replacement therapy. And I've been on it since, it's been 20-some years. And it's just exactly what I needed in my body. So I've been able to live a healthy life, just like a normal person again. And so we came with a B2 visitor visa in 1996. And immigration stopped renewing our visa about 4 years later. The reason they gave us was that this was a temporary type of visa, that they cannot extend it permanently forever. But we didn't know what other type of visa we could transfer or apply to. And I was a minor at then, so my status was attached to my father. So I became illegal. But my other option was to go back to China and die. So I think my parents made the decision to stay here with me as illegal immigrants. And I think any parents would have made the same decision. For us, there was no other choice. And I think just looking at me today, I think I can say they made the right decision. And so in 2012, when President Obama passed the DACA, it has been the one thing I've been waiting over the years is, a legal way to become a tax-paying resident and being able to use my college degree and contribute and pay back to the society and community. So it's been 5 years since I received DACA. I finished my master's degrees. I got a driver's license, bought my first car. I got my first home. I work for a pharmaceutical company right now who also sells the drug that I inject every 2 weeks. So I think it's been amazing, even though I know it's temporary, it's not a law. So there's always on the back of my mind what's going to happen, like what's happening today. So, but I have hope in the people and hopefully Congress, and they'll take some action. Because I think there's a lot of people who are caring and loving. I have had so many help from strangers over the years who are just willing to lend a helping hand. And I think one of the things I want to share with people is that when my story was published on Facebook, I had a lot of comments. And most of the comments were simply asking, why haven't you bothered to become a citizen over the years? And unfortunately, maybe it's my lack of knowledge. I do not think there was any legal way for me to become a citizen other than marrying a US citizen. Any other way would require me to go back to China, which will pose a 10-year bar from a reentry, and I would have been dead by then. And also the other misunderstanding is people ask, how did I pay for my college and master education? Well, I was not qualified for any federal loan or state aids or student aids. So my parents worked 6 days a week for many, many years to pay international tuition in cash for both my college and graduate degrees. So I just wanted to share my story. I can't speak for every one of DACA recipients. Everyone has a different situation, a different story. But I think I just want to make some people aware that I didn't choose to be illegal. I didn't really have a choice. I just chose to live. And I think everyone should, life is hard, but you should never give up. You just do whatever you can to make the best of it. So, thank you.
Hi, my name is Hortensia Ortiz, and I am 18 years old. So my parents brought me and my 3 other siblings from Mexico when I was 3, my older brother was 5, and my younger brother was 1. And so we practically lived here our whole entire lives. And I used to live right outside of Philly in a small town called Kennett Square, the mushroom capital of the world, woo. But there was a big Latino population, so I always felt at home, and I never really thought much about like me being undocumented was like something bad until I got to high school, where I started looking for colleges, starting to look for ways to pay for college, and I realized I wasn't able to get any financial aid because I was undocumented. And so I just graduated high school last June, and right now I'm taking a gap year, and I decided to move to Pittsburgh with my uncle and work at his restaurant because I wanted to earn money since I can't, I can't have any financial aid. And so I was able to apply for DACA and my other 2 brothers, but the 2-year, I have to continue to reapply for, I had to continue to reapply for DACA until the Trump administration decided to take that away. And so I can't really make any future plans because I don't know what's gonna happen in some months, or I was fortunate to I have 2 more years, but I can't make any like large or like long-term plans because like what's going to happen in a couple months? You know, the Trump administration keeps telling us it's going to, you know, this day they're going to tell us, this day they're going to tell us, but they're like, that day just comes and they never, you know, it's a hard, I guess you can say life for me right now because I can't really do anything. And my parents right now are being seen as criminals when to us they're heroes because they decided to come over and move to a country where they didn't know the language, they didn't know anything, just for their kids. And to us and the Dreamers, they're heroes. And having a Clean Dream Act where our parents are not criminalized and where there's a pathway towards citizenship is essential. And we can't continue to live in this, you know, uncertainty. And it's just, thanks.
Thank you, ladies, and thank you for your courage. Obviously, you've had great parents who have cared for you and put their own safety at risk in order to be able to give you a life, literally a life, that's worth living. And I can only assure you that the people of the city of Pittsburgh are here to support you. There's a lot of discussion that's happened this past couple of years as it comes to subjects of immigration. And it really is important to understand our history because we are living in difficult times and we have lived in difficult times before. But yeah, the one comment that I hear back from a lot of people is you don't understand. We're talking about illegal immigrants. But that is a definition that we define. You know, when my grandfather came here, he was welcomed. He didn't have documents. Nobody did. He had a second-grade education. My grandmother had no education. They didn't come over through a process that we have today. They came over because we were a country that actually believed. We believed that this was the shining light of the world, that anybody, the huddled masses that were anywhere in this world that needed to escape, that needed to find a place to live, had a place on this earth that they could come to. That was the promise of America. That was what brought them here. There were derogatory terms created for the Italians who came over in the 1920s and earlier. It was taken from the term without papers, and they were referred to in a negative way because of that. American history proves what happens when that type of hatred helps to dictate policy. Because in 1924, Congress created a new bill, and it put restrictions on immigration that weren't there before. And what it said was, you can come over, we'll welcome you, as long as you were here in 1890. And who came over in 1890 to 1924? The ones that worked in the mills and mines of Western Pennsylvania, the ones that came from Croatia, the ones that came from Poland, the ones that came from Germany and Russia, the Jews and the Catholics, the ones that came from Italy. And it would be about another 5 years before my grandmother could join my grandfather, because we created laws that kept them apart. If we can create laws that keep people apart, and that's part of American history, then American history can also create laws that keep us together. And what we're asking for is very simple: a pathway to citizenship. We're not asking for special treatment or anything else, but something that's been a part of America since this country was first created: the opportunity for people to become Americans. A process that allows the folks that have been here and have struggled and have made sacrifices that opportunity to raise their right hand, take an oath, and wave an American flag and say, I'm an American citizen. And Congress has until the imposed deadline that the President has created of March 5th in order to be able to do that. And here's the thing I just want to make sure that folks understand. Mayors throughout this country, Democrat and Republican, are standing together in support of this. because of what it means on a local level. These are Pittsburghers, and we want to make sure that they have the same rights as all Pittsburghers. Very simple. And to those who feel that it's a political issue, again, American history. Ronald Reagan supported Dreamers. George Bush supported Dreamers. It's only in these crazy days that we're in right now where this has become a political issue and not a humanitarian issue. Now, there's another part of this. You know, a lot of people say, boy, if Amazon comes, 50,000 people will destroy the city. We won't be able to handle that type of infusion over 17 years. Folks, if we don't have 100,000 people move here in the next 17 years, we're not going to be able to keep our basic infrastructure. You'll see schools closing. You'll see more potholes than you see today. You'll see the inability to pay for police officers. We need people, and we need talented people, and people with a passion, and people that want to be Americans and Pittsburghers. And so we have to, for our own economics, for our own well-being, not shut the gate off and say it was okay for my family to come here, but actually keep the gate open and allow for the other families to join us and to be Pittsburghers too. We're blessed in the city of Pittsburgh because we have a long history with a commission on human relations. And I wanted Director Torres to take a moment just to let people who may be watching this who are afraid right now to know what we can help to offer and what we can help to provide during these trying times. And again, I urge people, please call your member of Congress and please say, get to work together, and get a bill passed that gives people a pathway to citizenship. Director?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning. My name is Carlos Torres, and as the mayor said, I am the director of the Pittsburgh Commission on Human Relations. We have been around since 1955, but the message today is for everyone who is viewing this or listening to this, if you live, you work, or you visit our city, your rights are protected. The Commission has been doing so for over 60 years and will continue to do so today and tomorrow. If anyone has experienced discrimination because of their place of birth, because of the language that they speak, because of their gender, please come see us. Our services are free, and we're located right here in this building. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Monica Ruiz, and I work at Casa San Jose. On September 5th, 2017, I was in Washington, D.C. with a group of about 60 people here from Pittsburgh. Many of those people that day were Dreamers. And although I knew that this administration was hellbound on destroying families, I was not prepared to hear what I heard that day. For those of you that don't know what DACA is, it's Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, and I believe that Robert spoke a little bit about what that means. It provides young people that had been brought here to this country as children the temporary ability to work, to go to school, and to remain in this country without the fear of deportation. These young people who have given their names, their addresses, where they work, and where they go to school, trusted that our government would do something to help them. But now we see that we were very wrong. For those of you that don't understand simple immigration laws, we have some immigration attorneys here. I am not one of those, but I can tell you this. This line that people think that exists, it doesn't exist. There's no right way to come to this country. Like the mayor just said, immigration laws are not made to keep families together. In actuality, they separate families. What DACA did not do was it did not provide a pathway to citizenship. It was temporary. I think of the heroic efforts of these children and their families that brought them here, and I sit back and wonder, what could have been so bad where they were that they had to risk everything that they had ever known to come here and to be greeted with such hate and discrimination? And what keeps them going? Well, when you live in fear with not knowing what the next day brings, when you see what policies that countries like the United States have done to make your home country unlivable, because of violence and drug cartels, then you understand. I can stand here and tell you all the stories that I've heard on why people come here, but honestly, we don't have time, and it shouldn't take me having to tell you stories for you to think, behave, and act like human beings with morals, values, and hearts. Our dreamers, they're lawyers, they're doctors, they're engineers, they're teachers, they're students, they're business owners, they're roofers, and most importantly, they're human beings. Real people like you and me. They have families, and they deserve to be treated so. They contribute in more ways than just paying taxes. They create businesses, and when you have a business, you hire local people. They spend money in this city, and they increase the population and the diversity of this city. And just like the mayor just said, if we don't do that, then we're going to end up in a city that really is unlivable. I stand here today to demand a Clean Dream Act so that the dreamers have a pathway to citizenship, not this temporary Band-Aid that just continues to exploit and terrorize them. Like Hortensia said, she can't plan to go to college when she doesn't know how long her DACA will last. We demand that no monies be tied to a border wall so as to increase the already horrific amounts of atrocities that take place at the U.S.-Mexican border every single day. And we demand that the parents of the dreamers are not criminalized and not excluded from a pathway to citizenship. Because as I said the other day, if their parents are deported, who's going to take care of them? I encourage you all to use your voice, call Senator Toomey, tell him to vote to help our dreamers and pass a Clean Dream Act, and call Senator Casey and encourage him to continue to fight for these dreamers because so much of the livelihood of this city and our country depend on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica, and thank you for everyone who spoke. I want to say just one last quote that was said by Martin Luther King Jr. He said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly."